time for another episode of Podsdale. I'm your host, Holly Walter from the Office of Communication, and today we'll be talking about prevention and safety with the Scottsdale Fire Department. Here to talk to us is the department's Public Information Officer, Lori Schmidt. But before I talk to Lori, I'll turn it over to Stephanie Hirata for this episode's Fast Five.
Hi, I'm Public Affairs Specialist Stephanie Hirata with 5 fast things happening around the city you need to know. Still need a vaccine? Don't miss your shot. The city's free walk-in vaccination clinic starts us off at number 5. The event will be held from 1:30 to 5:30 p.m. on Thursday, October 14th at Eldorado Park Community Center. We've partnered with the Maricopa County Department of Health, who will be administering the Pfizer vaccine, which is approved for ages 12 and older. Whether you need your first dose or a second dose after our September 23rd event, all are welcome. To find out more, call 480-312-3111 or visit scottsdaleaz.gov and search COVID-19. Coming in at number 4, it's Scottsdale's Mcdowell Sonoran Preserve Month. On October 3rd, 1994, the Scottsdale City Council formally dedicated the first lands for the preserve. The Day 1 preserve was made up of 3 city-owned parcels of land spanning only 4.5 square miles. Today, the permanently protected sustainable desert habitat has grown to encompass about 1/3 of Scottsdale. To commemorate this important date, we're celebrating throughout the entire month of October. With our weather cooling down, it's the perfect time to get out and see all that the preserve has to offer. The preserve is open daily, sunrise to sunset, free of charge. All trailheads open and close at specific times throughout the year. To learn more and plan your visit, head on over to scottsdaleaz.gov and search Mcdowell Sonoran Preserve. Number 3 is all about helping Scottsdale fight the bite, from mosquitoes that is. With our heavy monsoon season, cases of West Nile virus are on the rise. Maricopa County health officials warn there have already been 138 confirmed cases and 7 deaths this year. While anyone can get this mosquito-borne illness, adults older than 60 and those with chronic health conditions are more at risk for serious complications. You can help us fight the bite by eliminating standing water where mosquitoes breed, such as pet bowls, potted plants, and even toys. To find out more, visit maricopa.gov and search Fight the Bite. The month of October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month and our number 2 spot. Domestic violence can affect anyone, no matter their age or background. Since 1981, the month of October has been dedicated to raising awareness about this serious issue and connecting those affected to advocates and resources. In Pulsion, the iconic equestrian sculpture at Westworld will be lit purple all month in recognition, and everyone is encouraged to wear purple on Thursday, October 21st. If you or someone you know is a victim or survivor of domestic violence, resources are available through the Arizona Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence or the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Last but certainly not least, in our number 1 spot, Scottsdale earns national recognition as a top spot for those with disabilities. Our city's efforts to be more disability-friendly include modifying buildings and sidewalks, as well as creating inclusive spaces such as Chaparral Park's fully accessible sensory playground and our award-winning Bahada Nature Trail. Alongside these, the city also offers a variety of programs and services through our Adaptive Services Center. We're continually striving to be more inclusive of our disabled community members and could not be more excited to see these efforts making a difference. To find out more about our programs and services, visit scottsdaleaz.gov and search Adaptive Services. And that's our Fast 5 for this episode of Podsdale. Got something for a future Fast 5? Tell us by emailing communications@scottsdaleaz.gov. I'll turn it back over to you, Holly.
Thanks, Stephanie. For today's episode, we get to talk to the fire department again, and today we have Lori Schmidt, who's a public information officer for our very own Scottsdale Fire Department. Hi, Lori.
Hi, how are you?
I am great. It's great to have you here, and I know everything you do, I'm going to have you explain that to our listeners. In fact, I met you before I even started with the city, isn't that right?
Yeah, so we work together with the Drowning Prevention Coalition of Arizona, which I am the current president of right now.
Oh, wow. So you've been involved with that group for quite some time now.
Yes, at least 17 years.
Wow. That's a long time.
Long time.
So let's go over the long list of what you do. What is your role within the fire department?
So with most public information officer titles, that usually focuses on social media and working with the media and answering any of the questions that they have, which is one of the jobs that I have. But I also am in charge of all of our community risk reduction, classes, injury prevention, those types of things. I also am the liaison officer, so if the firefighters go on a call, they are able to identify if that person or family needs additional services. They'll connect with me, and then we work with the senior center and PCIS with the police department to help get those services. And then, of course, event planning, which we just finished our 9/11 celebration or memorial, and that was a really amazing event for us in the city.
Which it always is. It's always a beautiful event, and we appreciate the work that's put into that. And I know the community appreciates it as well. Now, you mentioned community risk reduction. Explain what that is exactly and what that covers.
Fire departments across the country are really looking at community risk reduction and what that means to a community, which is what potentially could harm that community. What do we need to fix or be able to quickly mitigate? What can we prevent? So we have a whole community risk reduction team that has identified what our risks are within the city that can be narrowed down to a first due area, which is where the fire department responds. That engine then is supposed to be the first engine on scene. What is in that individual's area, which can be the preserve, it can be a specific business that might have high risk. But our team really looked at, what are our things that we need to do? And some of the focus that we have for that is mountain rescues, lift assists at our living assisted living facilities. And then also our Firewise, we look at the fire risk up in North Scottsdale, which of course is always a concern. We don't want our beautiful diamond in the desert to fire up each summer. We need to keep that risk low.
Right. Now, today you're going to talk to us about something among the many things you do that you've really placed a lot of focus on within the last month, which is falls and fall prevention. And what makes this a big concern in Scottsdale?
There was a recent study in the last couple of years where the City of Scottsdale looked at what's our population look like. We have a lot of older adults. We also partnered with Honor Health, and they had done a study, and it's amazing the community right around the location at Shea. The majority of the homes there, people are taking 3 or more medications, which is a red flag for us, knowing that that's a huge risk for falls as well. And frankly, across the country, and it is true for Scottsdale, is that the number one call to the 911 dispatch for medical reasons is going to be falls. Help me! I need help. It's that old thing. It's like,
that old commercial.
And I can't get up.
I didn't realize that though.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, knowing all of that, and also knowing that falls are a preventable injury, we put a lot of focus on that. We want people to be able to age safely in place. We don't want to come in and say, we've got such an injury that you can no longer be at home. So I learned a couple of years ago with the NFPA that we start falling at age 50. Which was shocking to me because now I'm in that age group and I'm like, you know what, that's true. It can be life changing when we have a fall. Mm-hmm. It's life-threatening as we get older. And I see that with my own father, who used to hike the Pinellas by himself 2 years ago. And in that 2 years, he started having leg trouble, and now he has to walk with a walker. He's fallen several times, and it's really scary as people get older, what injuries those things can really make a difference in whether or not they can actually get around in their home.
Sure. Yeah, it leads to many other things, and I guess it seems minor when you think about it, but it can be fairly significant, like you said, and life-altering. So as employees and as others who listen to the podcast, what can we do? Whether we're in that age group or we're not in that age group, I'm sure most of us have people in our lives who could be more prone to falling.
Well, and that's the thing, too. Like I said, if we are age 50 and we're falling, what are the things that we can put into place to protect ourselves? And then also we may have parents that are in that same position. And then also the community that we're working with, what are the things that tip us off? So we really want people to take a thought about what their risks are. Some of them are just as simple of all of those throw rugs we like to put around our homes as we get older. If we start shuffling our feet, we're now shuffling with those rugs underneath. We also have rolly chairs. We also have pets. As much as we love them, they are also a tripping hazard. We also look at the kitchen. Are you using something that is too high for you to reach and you're constantly having to climb something to get that? We need to move that piece of equipment or item to a lower cabinet. Medications is also a really big one. If you're taking more than 4 medications, you're probably taking something that you don't need to take anymore, which is pretty amazing. I always say, they say it's practicing medicine. We have a lot of people who will go in and be prescribed something to resolve some issue, and it's not working. They're not feeling well with it. And so 2 things happen. They either go and the doctor says, well, let's try a different medication. Some people will fail to ask, do I stop the original medication? And so now we're adding medications on top of that. The other thing that could happen is that you're on a medication and you're suffering side effects. You go in and you say, hey, this problem is happening for me, and they prescribe a medication to solve that side effect. And then that causes side effects. So now we've piled on a whole bunch of medications, and now we've become a medical zombie. So we really look at, what are the things that you're taking? Are they really necessary? We have psychotropic drugs also that, anxiety medications and things like that can cause dizziness. Cardiac pills can also cause dizziness. So that polypharmacy is going to be a really big concern. The other thing that we want people to think about is if you are going to a CVS pharmacy for one medication and then you happen to stop at a Walgreens for a different medication, and maybe you go to Walmart for another, those pharmacies don't talk to each other. And so those pharmacists don't know that you are taking a whole lot of medications that maybe you shouldn't be. So we recommend that you stay within the same pharmacy group when you're filling your meds. And reconciling your medications with your primary care physician will be important too. A lot of people, especially as we get older, we may have that PCP, but then also have specialists, and they're not always seeing what all medications you're on. And so having that regular reconciliation is going to help identify any concerns that could be causing you problems health-wise.
That's good to think about. It makes sense that those combinations could certainly cause some issues. Now, how long has the department partnered with Honor Health? Because I feel like that's a really interesting element to this, that you're working with Honor Health to share this information with our residents.
We have been partnering with Honor Health even before they were called Honor Health. So that was a really great program that when we started our Home Safe Home program within the fire department, it was that conversation with our healthcare partners to identify, let's try to help people not have to come to the hospital because of a fall, and keeping them active and, getting into matter of balance classes, getting to Tai Chi classes, and also then getting us in, we hope, before someone falls to keep them from going to the hospital in the first place. The other challenges that we've seen is if someone has fallen already, their chance of falling again goes up really, really high. And if that fall lands you into the hospital, ironically, your fall risk is even higher when you go home than it was before you went to the hospital. So having that open conversation and trying to mitigate any of those issues is really, really incredibly important for our community. And, community risk reduction in this particular area is something that is easy to look at and mitigate some of those risks out of the home, even just on an individual basis. I was talking about the Home Safe Home program.
Right, that was a good segue. Yeah. And I was going to ask those questions. Yeah. So that's one of the ways the department mitigates.
Yes. So
falls,
we have
correct?
An amazing program. We have SFD personnel that go out. We do a home assessment. We look at a whole lot of different issues. Your autonomy. Are you able to dress yourself? How are you getting around? Can you get up and down out of your bed? Can you get up and down out of the seat that you go into when you're in the living room? What does your bathroom look like? So we're going to take a lot of those really hard looks and deep dives into that. We'll also identify some issues with your medications. One of the other things that we find with when somebody has health concerns already that might not be fall related, for instance, cardiac, you have to know, if this happens, then what do you do? We worked with a lady who She was a tiny little lady. She was suffering from the early stages of dementia, and she was asked, so I see that you have cardiac issues. If you go to bed and you get up the next morning and you weigh 10 pounds more than you did yesterday, what would you think that meant? And the little lady sweetly says, well, that I had a really big supper. Well, in fact, she actually had probably about 10 pounds of fluid in her body, and that's putting pressure on the heart and would mean she needs to get to the hospital right away. So identifying those types of things is a key to helping people age safely in place. Sure. So we look at those fall issues, because that's our number one call. Of course, we're the fire department, so we're also going to look at, can you escape from your home? How do you shelter in place? Does your smoke alarm work? Do you have a fire extinguisher? And do we need to put a lockbox on your home?
Okay, so it sounds like we want to see people before we're responding to that emergency call. We'd rather help you before you run into a problem rather than during or after.
Yes. Preventing the fall in the first place is key. If you have fallen, then let's get in there and try to mitigate those issues so that we don't have it again. That vicious cycle of somebody falling and then being afraid to fall, and which actually raises their risk of falling, it's kind of amazing. And we do kind of set ourselves up for failure sometimes, and keeping active is important. One of our volunteers, she says, you know what, every day I get down on the ground and I figure out myself back up. She says, because a lot of people don't think about that, and they get down and they have no idea or the strength to get up. So we've got to keep that muscle tone up. COVID didn't help us any because we had a lot of people sitting at home, not getting to go out to their normal activities. And so we had a lot more issues with people shuffling and not able to get around like they're supposed to.
Now, where can someone find more information on Safe Home and some of the other things that we've talked about today?
So we do have an amazing information on our website. So you go to scottsdaleaz.gov and search Home Safe Home. You can also go to the senior centers. We also have brochures there. They can fill out a form and give us a call. Call the 312-8000 line at the fire department, ask for questions, and we will get an appointment. The appointments, we come to the home. It only takes about an hour. It is absolutely free. We don't ask for any money. We don't want you to be fearful that we're going to be charging you for anything. Or then a lot of people also are fearful that we're going to come in and say, well, you can't live here anymore. You have to go to an assisted living. There's a real fear of that. But no, we really would like for them to stay home as safely as they can.
It's so good to know this and share this information. Are there any other programs or that you would like to talk about more specifically why we are together today?
Well, we have so many incredible injury prevention programs with the fire department. Water safety, of course, is a huge concern in our valley, and that is for both kids and adults. A lot of people don't realize that the number of drownings are a lot higher with adults. We have 75% more incidents in Scottsdale involving adults than we do children. And so we want everybody to understand that, when we swim alone and if we swim impaired, and that can be with medications, not just alcohol or street drugs, that we're putting ourselves at risk. And we have that old rule of swimming with a buddy. Mm-hmm. That's true as adults too. And I do have people say, well, I have a pool, I live alone, so you're telling me I can't use my pool anymore. And I always say, it's just best if you don't feel well, don't go in the pool. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of our issues, especially with our older adults, they're going in and then they might have a cardiac issue or even have a stroke in the water. And if nobody's there to help them get out, then we end up with a drowning. Of course, we have a really high rate of drowning in the valley of children under the age of 5. So making sure that we also have those other layers of protection for them. The adult supervision is always number one. Putting barriers around your pool so that they don't have access when you don't have eyes on them. And then the classes, knowing how to swim. That's a huge one, but no swim lesson is going to ever drown-proof you. If you don't know how to swim or in water above your swimming ability, and that's, again, with the adults, even out on open water, lakes and rivers, we get our muscles on after enjoying a day of adult beverages, and we go out swimming and we tire and we don't have anything to help us up. That life vest is going to be really important. Right. And if if those other layers fail, knowing how to do CPR, mouth-to-mouth CPR with the 30 compressions, 2 breaths, that's going to be helpful to us when you've made that call and they're getting the oxygen to the brain that they need to while you're waiting for the fire department to arrive is key to survivability.
Now, where can someone learn CPR?
Right now, there are agencies across the valley that will teach it. Usually we have classes with the fire department. We will not be offering any classes until 2022 simply because of the COVID restrictions. But, go to preventdrownings.org and there's a Learn CPR link there, and you can get a whole lot of resources that way. Learning to swim, our aquatic centers, they teach classes even to adults, so you don't have to think that you're taking a class with a little third grader or something. I am really surprised about the number of people in our area that do not know how to swim. We get this sense that once you hit the age of 7, you automatically know how to swim. Most people don't have formal swimming lessons, and that can be a real challenge, especially as people get older. And we have that assumption. And so now we have 12 and 13-year-olds hanging out in water that may be above their swimming ability. And we've got challenges with that on top of any other extracurricular activities that are going on. When you're thinking about floating down the river.
Right.
We've got somebody you got somebody who doesn't know how to swim, and if anybody's floated the river, trying to get off the little inner tubes, it's quite a feat when you're sober, and a lot of people are not sober by the end of their float. So it is a big concern.
Good reminders. Now, you mentioned briefly earlier about lock boxes, and how does that work with the department? What's that about?
I love that you brought that up. So our lock boxes, we have more than 3,000 lock boxes in the system for the city, which is fantastic. What happens with that lock box is the resident provides a key to us. We put it in the lock box. We hang it usually in a place where nobody can see. Our last place of putting it would be on the doorknob. But that lockbox is now available to us. If you call 911 and are unable to answer the door, then public safety professionals are able to access that lockbox and enter the home without having to break down any doors or windows. And I always say, our firefighters like to break things, but we'd prefer not to in an emergency like that. And it is a very successful partnership with the Scottsdale Area Association of Realtors.
Okay.
We've been doing this for even before the fire department became a city department. It was a great partnership with even rural metro and the police department. So it's been probably 17, 18 years when this was in place. It's really easy to get one. There's a form on the internet that you can turn in. You can also call an 800 number and get a lockbox pretty easily. They do ask for a $25 donation. That is to SAR. The realtors then turn around and write us money so that we can purchase lock boxes for those folks who cannot afford them.
Great. Now, is there any restrictions, or anyone can sign up and
anyone
get
can
a
sign up?
box? Okay, yeah. Fantastic.
And we keep the code. The individual does not know the code. We don't want it shared out with anybody else. So you can feel comfortable that that information is not out for a whole bunch of other people to know. It's only available if you call 911, it shows up as a premise alert. And if you're unable to answer the door, which I bring up because I had somebody ask me, well, I called 911 and they didn't use the lockbox. And I'm like, well, were you able to answer the door? Yes. Well, we don't want to enter unless you're actually not able to. Mm-hmm. But that code then is now used to get in and help you as quickly as we can.
Okay, well, we covered a lot of great information today. We talked about community risk reduction, specifically falls, and what the department has been doing and really promoting over the past month, even though that's something you do year-round, of course. Some good reminders about swimming for adults and for children, and to keep drowning prevention in mind, and also our lockbox program. So I think we covered several things that are going on within the department, and it's good to know that these resources are there. Like you said, we can anyone can just visit scottsdaleaz.gov, land on the fire department page, and there's plenty of information on all of these programs.
There's a whole bunch of programs that we didn't even get to talk about today. So if you have an injury prevention issue, contact us. We will be able to help you.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Lori. We appreciate your time.
Love it. Thanks.
That wraps up this episode of Podsdale. And with that, here's our trivia question. What complimentary Scottsdale Fire Department program keeps older adult residents safer in their homes? Email your answer to communications@scottsdaleaz.gov. And I'll be back in 2 weeks for another episode. Until then, take care.